We had planned this family trip for weeks. San Diego, sunshine, the beach, and just some time to breathe. After everything we'd been through the past year, it felt earned. My wife, Tanya, said it was her treat. Said she finally got that promotion she'd been chasing and used her bonus to book the whole thing. I was proud of her. Really. I'd been out of work for a while, lost my job right before Christmas. But when Tanya told me she wanted to celebrate this win as a family, how could I say no? Our kids, Taylor and Maddie, were thrilled. They packed days ahead, arguing over what to bring and planning playlists for the drive. It almost felt normal. Tanya handled all the logistics. "You've been stressed enough," she told me. "Let me take care of it." I let her, and for a moment I believed we were okay. But things started to feel off. First, Tanya told the kids our flight was at 9:30. Later that night, she told me 10:45. I figured she was just tired, juggling too much. But then she called the hotel Silver Sands to the kids and Sand Bay Suites to me. I asked once. She brushed it off, said they were owned by the same group. Still, something gnawed at me. She insisted on booking everything herself, wouldn't even let me double-check the confirmation. "You always worry too much," she said. "Just relax this time." While packing, I was looking for her charger in her purse when I found a folded itinerary. It wasn't the one she told me about. Palm Springs, not San Diego, different hotel, different dates. I froze. Why would she? An alert popped up on her phone as it buzzed on the table. "Your reservation in Palm Springs is confirmed." She said nothing about Palm Springs. I held it in. Just stared at her when she came back into the room, all smiles, asking if I'd packed my swim trunks. That night, I asked about the promotion, lightly. "So, what's your new title again?" She paused, then smiled. "Senior account lead." Or something like that. That wasn't like her. Tanya always knew her titles, wore them like badges. I nodded, but didn't say anything. The next day, while she was in the shower, I did something I've never done before. I checked her email. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't trust what I was feeling. That gut pull, that whisper that something's not right. 3 tickets, not 4. 2 hotel rooms, same dates, same hotel in Palm Springs. The kids were with her. I wasn't even listed. Then I saw a calendar event. Meet T, 2 p.m. Don't forget the papers. My hands went cold. Who was T? Why papers? What kind of trip was this? I stepped out of the house and stood in the yard. The morning was cool, but my skin was burning. Every breath felt sharp. I looked at our house, the cars, the freshly trimmed lawn, and wondered how much of my life had been a lie. I remembered something my father used to say whenever something didn't add up. "If the numbers don't make sense, someone's cooking more than dinner." I didn't confront her, not yet. Not even when she asked if I wanted coffee and kissed my cheek. I just nodded. Because I needed to know. I needed to see the whole picture before I acted. And if she was hiding something this big, then I was done playing dumb. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I was going to see just how deep this rabbit hole went. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was angry, but because I finally understood what silence could do. By the time we loaded the car the next morning, my mind had already crossed a threshold I couldn't come back from. Tanya was cheerful, too cheerful, directing the kids to pack their bags, adjusting sunglasses like she was starring in some picture-perfect vacation ad. I carried our suitcases in silence. She didn't notice. The kids were in the back seat, glued to their phones. Laughter, earbuds, games. It was all noise that kept them out of the growing quiet in the front. Tanya drove, saying she wanted to avoid the weekend traffic heading toward San Diego. "I found a better route," she said, without meeting my eyes. I nodded, leaned back, and closed my eyes like I was trying to nap. But I watched every sign, every turn. The coast disappeared behind us. The road turned dry, flat. Desert heat shimmered on the asphalt. This wasn't a shortcut. This was a redirection. Tanya gripped the wheel tighter than usual. She kept glancing at her phone on the center console, then out at the horizon. I said nothing. But in my head, I heard my father again. Sometimes silence screams louder than any argument. We stopped for gas just past noon. She told the kids to grab snacks. I stayed behind. While she was inside, I picked up her phone from the dash and checked the recent GPS history. Desert Mirage Villas. That name hit like a hammer. It was the same one from the email. Not a mistake. A destination. When she came back, I asked gently, "You sure this is the right way?" Her voice cracked a little before she bit back. Yes. Just trust me for once. She said it like I was the one losing grip, like my doubts were the problem. We got back in the car, and I didn't press further. I didn't need to. We pulled into the resort about an hour later. Desert Mirage Villas was the kind of place where everything felt polished. Quiet fountains, valet service, people walking around in pressed uniforms like they never broke a sweat. Tanya flipped her tone immediately, all charm. Laughing with the receptionist, she gave her name, Clara Thompson. My breath caught. Thompson wasn't our last name. The receptionist smiled, unfazed. Ah, yes, corporate booking. We have 2 rooms reserved under Mrs. Thompson. Tanya faked a chuckle. Oh, must be a mix-up from work. She turned to me without blinking. You know how they always get things wrong. I smiled back like I didn't know what the hell was going on. She took both keys, slipped one into her purse. I didn't ask questions. I didn't unpack. That evening, while she showered, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. I noticed her ring. Actually, I noticed it was gone. The white tan line still wrapped around her finger like a scar. I checked the bathroom counter. Nothing. And later I asked casually, "You forget your ring?" She wiped her hair with a towel and said, "Oh, I left it at home. Didn't want to lose it while traveling." She was lying, and she wasn't even trying hard. Her jewelry case was tucked in the corner of her suitcase. I opened it after she stepped out again, probably to take another call outside the room. It was empty, except for one thing, a men's watch I didn't recognize. Silver face. Leather band. Not mine. When someone stops wearing their promises, it's not because they forgot. It's because they're done pretending. That night, I started taking notes, snapping photos quietly with my phone, logging dates, times, the way her voice shifted when she got a text. I wasn't a husband on vacation anymore. I was a man cataloging betrayal. She started pacing more, stepping away to talk in hushed tones. When she returned, she'd smile too quickly, talk about breakfast plans, pool hours, maybe doing the spa with the kids. I stopped engaging. I answered her in half sentences. No warmth, no fights either. Just distance. I remembered a line I read years ago. Hemingway said it. The world breaks everyone, and afterward, some are strong at the broken places. That stuck. I wasn't broken yet, but I knew where I was cracking. And I wasn't going to explode. I was going to dismantle this whole mess piece by piece. Later that night, I lay awake staring at the sliver of light under the adjoining door she said was locked for maintenance. I didn't believe her for a second, but I didn't move. I just watched the light. I woke before dawn, the room still damp with darkness. Clara lay asleep beside me, blanket half tangled. I slipped out quietly, pulling on a shirt, steadying my breath. I told myself I wasn't running away. I was just gathering truth. Downstairs, the lobby was empty. I joined the breakfast area, where one waiter gave me a quick nod. The hostess stepped up and offered, "Mr. Willis, your cold brew?" My heart thumped. Willis? That's not my name. I flashed a gentle smile and said, "Actually, I'm Merrick. Could you double-check the reservation under Merrick Thompson?" She frowned, tapping a tablet. "I see Clara Willis here, Suite 402, she said. My stomach twisted. I asked for the printout. My name wasn't on it. Every line showed Clara Willis and 2 guests. No Merrick Thompson. A client booking error. That excuse wouldn't land. When someone erases your name, they've started writing a new life without you. I left breakfast and walked outside, letting the cold air clear my head. The desert silence felt heavy. I couldn't stop seeing the booking email I glimpsed earlier. I walked back through my memory, a casual dinner 3 months ago. Clara said, "Let me take care of the trip. You've been too busy with work." I'd smiled and let her. Later, I saw an email subject. Willis +2 confirmed. See you poolside. At the time, I shrugged it off. Now it looked like a blueprint. Back in the room, a text lit up my phone from an unknown number. "I know who you are. She's done this before. Be careful." My hands trembled. Attached, a photo of Clara at the same resort years ago with another man, and a caption, "Ask her about August 14th. I stared at it, caught between disbelief and fury. I didn't text back. I stepped onto the balcony, watched laughter and splashing from the pool below. Families taking pictures, couples hand in hand. The warmth mocked me. I had thought this trip would heal us, bring us closer. Instead, it was the shell around betrayal. All those nights I stayed quiet, believing calm meant strength. But now I saw how that quiet made me invisible. I tightened my jaw. I would not lose myself in silence again. Not this time. Before sleep, I pulled out my old phone and set up a small camera, concealing it near the bathroom door and corner of the suite. I slid the second room key from Clara's purse into my pocket. I hadn't unpacked. I wouldn't. That key was now a question I intended to walk into. Clara came back, fresh out of the shower, hair damp, eyes bright. She kissed my cheek. "I booked you a spa session this afternoon," she said. I nodded. She smiled. My phone buzzed, a second message. "She's in room 240 with him, now." I pressed my hand to the wall, quiet, listening to my heart. I moved toward the door, key in hand, one step ahead of what she thought I knew. The next morning, I joined Clara and the kids by the pool. Sun was just breaking through the haze, bouncing off the surface of the water. Clara waved at a staff member who called her Mrs. Thompson again. I just sipped my coffee and watched. The kids were splashing, laughing, unaware. Clara had her sunglasses on, her smile wide, but her shoulders stayed tense. I sat on the edge of a lounger, phone in hand, pretending to scroll. The waiter brought the receipt for my coffee. It looked normal, until it didn't. An extra charge, $500, marked Resort Premium Service. Before I could say a word, Clara leaned over, plucked the bill from my hand like it was lint. "Probably a hotel mistake," she said, almost too quick. I nodded, kept the calm face, but I'd already seen enough. Back in the room later, I went over our charges through the resort app. It wasn't just coffee. There were multiple line items, overnight charges from the day before we even arrived, spa treatments I never used, and guest access passes billed twice. I started a spreadsheet, labeled it plainly, what she spent versus what I know. That afternoon, I asked her, quiet and casual, "Hey, did you end up booking a spa thing for me today?" "Nope," she said, not even looking up from her tablet. "Thought you hated massages." Minutes later, I got a call from the front desk manager. "Sir, just wanted to notify you your cards exceeded the credit limit. We can switch to another one on file or—" I stopped him. "Hold it, I'll handle it in person." When I hung up, Clara was suddenly there, concerned face on. "I'm so sorry," she said in that sugary tone that always came before a cover-up. "You're just too generous with amenities, huh?" It's not theft, I thought to myself, if they call it luxury. But in my gut, I felt like I was being drained, slowly, on purpose. Later that evening, I slid the second room key from my wallet, the one Clara said belonged to a locked storage suite that the resort accidentally assigned. I walked down 2 floors, quiet steps, pulse in my ears. I slid the card into the door. It beeped green. Inside, low light. Another room, same layout. Except this one had mail luggage half unpacked, 2 tumblers on the counter, and a soft cologne in the air. The bed looked used. There was a travel-size shaving kit on the bathroom sink. I froze. I didn't touch anything. Just looked. Behind me, I heard footsteps faintly down the hall. I backed out, shut the door, and walked back like nothing happened. Inside our suite, Clara was in the shower. I lay down on the bed and closed my eyes, but I didn't sleep. My head kept turning over one question. Do I say something now? Or let her keep lying, thinking I'm still in the dark? In my pocket was a scarf I gave her on our anniversary, hand-stitched, navy and gray. She used to wear it every fall. Now it was buried in my luggage, untouched. That scarf reminded me, love without truth is a cage stitched from sentiment. I pulled out my phone, texted my old friend, Ron, someone I trusted, someone who'd known us from the start. Message said, something's off. I need eyes if things go south. I kept one ear on the hallway. She came in minutes later, holding 2 glasses of red wine. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. They fixed the receipt issue, she said, handing me a glass. Apparently some guest account mixed into ours, full refund. So cheers. I clinked glasses, sipped, but the taste burned. I'm drinking her lies, I thought. A buzz hit my phone. I glanced at it. New message. 2 guests seen leaving room 408 together at midnight last night. I looked up at Clara. She was sipping her wine, eyes on the TV. I watched her and waited. The clock on the nightstand read 2:43 a.m. I hadn't slept. I lay there, eyes open, staring into the ceiling like it owed me answers. The room was dark except for the soft glow from the thermostat panel across the wall. Clara was next to me, breathing slow, even, too even. I listened harder. Nothing but that steady rise and fall beside me, and I thought, you only ever learn who someone is when they believe you're no longer watching. I reached for my phone, typed a message to Ron. Set your camera on the hallway. If I'm wrong, you get steak and dessert. Then I put the phone down, turned onto my back, and stared again. My brain wasn't spiraling anymore. I was planning, not just how to catch her, but how to reclaim myself. By morning, I'd made peace with one thing. I didn't come here to fight, but I won't leave blind. Around 9:17 a.m., I sat out on the balcony. The sun was already hot, baking the tiles beneath my feet. Clara was inside, supposedly taking a shower. My phone lit up, incoming call from her. I picked it up and heard her voice mid-sentence. No, he suspects nothing. I've got him where I want. Then silence. She didn't hang up, just stayed there, letting it linger. That wasn't a pocket dial. That was staged. My thumb hit record before I even realized I was doing it. When she walked back out onto the balcony, hair still damp, smile ready-made, I didn't even flinch. Thanks for the confirmation, I said flat. She paused, blinked, but the corners of her mouth didn't drop. She recovered too fast. That told me everything. At brunch, we sat across from each other like strangers at an airport. I placed my phone on the table, tapped it, let the recording play. Clara listened to herself, cool as ice. She didn't reach for the phone, didn't shout, just said, "It's not what it sounds like." I smiled, not because it was funny. It never is. She looked around, leaned in slightly. You weren't really present, Merrick. You checked out long before I did. I just found attention elsewhere. I didn't respond. Silence made a better weapon than any words could. She flinched more from my stillness than she ever had from my voice. Later that day, while Clara was at the spa again, or said she was, my daughter found me by the shaded part of the pool. She sat beside me, awkward like teenagers do when they've got something big to say but don't know how to start. Dad, I think Mom's been meeting someone, she whispered, eyes darting around like she'd be punished for even thinking it. I didn't interrupt. I saw texts once, from someone saved as co-op project. And she always said she had errands during lunch. She paused. I didn't tell you earlier because I didn't want to hurt you. I hugged her. First real touch that meant something all week. She started crying. Please don't leave us. I'll never leave you, I said, then paused. But I might leave her. Later, I walked the resort grounds alone. Desert air hits different when your chest is already cracked open. Sharp, biting, not painful, just awake. I thought of something Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And I had seen her, not just last night or on the receipts or in that accidental call, but all the times she had spoken without speaking. All the nights she faced the other way in bed. All the polite dinners that felt like hostage negotiations. I opened my phone, hit record, and started speaking to it, like a diary, not for revenge, for clarity. Some lies don't destroy you. They reveal who's willing to. That night, Clara walked back in just as I zipped the last corner of my bag. She stopped. What's this? She asked. I'm going out for a bit, I said. We'll talk when I get back. You'll want to think carefully about what you'll say. Her brow furrowed. Back from where? I picked up the bag, slung it over my shoulder. From my lawyer's office. She froze, didn't speak, but her face told me she heard it louder than anything I'd ever said. I woke to emptiness. Clara was gone, the bed beside me cold and bare. I sighed, rolled over, and there it was, a folded envelope, her handwriting barely legible. I carried it to the balcony, sat on the ledge, hands shaking as I slid it open, the early light painting rough shadows on the walls. The note trembled slightly in my fingers. Inside, her words said she never meant to hurt me, that I'd grown too distant, too giving, that she was doing what she thought she had to. The tone was a mix of regret and accusation, enough to sting. betrayal wrapped in apology. I tucked the letter into my jacket, but something in me cracked. This wasn't a confession. It was a pivot. That evening, I attended Clara's gala. Her foundation's grand unveiling. I stood beside her on the stage, introduced as her silent pillar, applauded for my endurance. My heart beat like a war drum underneath the tuxedo. Then she raised a glass and said, "To those who pay in silence so others shine." Among the crowd, faces softened, whispered. Some looked at me with sympathy, others with curiosity. I lifted my glass and stayed mute. The applause rang in my ears. She had given me a role, the martyr in her success story. Later, we walked to her car under the garden lights. I handed her the letter. She froze. "I meant for you to keep it private," she said. Her voice sounded practiced, too practiced. "You pushed me to be seen, so I did what I had to do." "You didn't push me," I said evenly. "You rewrote me." She narrowed her eyes. "You've always been selfless. I just broke the illusion." I said nothing more. I turned away and walked to my own car, leaving her standing. She didn't offer me a ride. That absence hit deeper than any word. Back at the resort, I replayed the night in my mind. Faces in the crowd, the way people looked. There was one man nodding at Clara while she spoke. I pulled up the gala photos on my phone. That nod matched the suit from the secret room I found. That man. I pulled the scarf from my pocket, the one I'd hand-stitched for her. It felt heavier now, like a burden of hope. That scarf was my marker, my memory of when I believed love calls you home. Now it felt like a weight around my ribs. I drafted a blueprint in my mind. Lawyer, public record, witnesses. I would build proof. I would force her lies into daylight. And I swore to myself, this time, I will be seen on my own terms. Clara texted, "Are you okay? We need to talk in my suite." I replied, "Yes, tonight, let's stop pretending." I arrived at her suite door. The lock clicked behind me. I heard her voice softly. "You should have trusted me." I stepped inside. The phone buzzed before sunrise. Zeph's name lit up the screen. I answered with a quiet, "Yeah?" as I rubbed the edge of sleep from my eyes. "Found something," he said flatly. "She filed a contract last year, gave herself sole control over all shared assets. You didn't sign it." I sat up. "Say that again." "She used your digital signature on a scanned form. We're filing a counter-petition today." I stared at the wall. My voice, when it came, was low and steady. "They tried to bury me in signatures." He didn't reply. He didn't need to. I hung up and just sat there. Later that morning, Zeph forwarded another document. This time, it was worse. Clara had remortgaged our house while I was overseas. In my name, the payout, sent to a shell company listed under someone else, Jethro, her project partner. And she changed the business registry. I was no longer co-owner. I traced the date on the form. She filed it the same week we were reconnecting at the resort. While I was taking pictures of sunsets, she was making sure my name vanished from the things I built. It wasn't just betrayal, it was architecture. She'd laid this out for months. Bombs planted in daylight, disguised as decisions we'd made together. My daughter knocked gently on the door around midday. She walked in quietly, holding a small USB. Her eyes told me everything before she even opened her mouth. "I found it on her laptop," she whispered. "Hidden folder." She labeled it Project A. I wasn't snooping, I needed to know. She handed me the drive. Inside were surveillance clips, short, blurry, but clear enough. Clara, Jethro. That suite, paperwork exchanged, laughter, champagne. "You shouldn't be part of this," I said softly. "I already am," she replied. "And you shouldn't face it alone." I nodded, unable to speak. In her voice, I heard something that had been missing for weeks. Truth, unscripted. The kind I'd stopped expecting from adults. That night, I sat in the den, lights off, only the screen glowing. I recorded Clara's voice on my phone, an old message I'd forgotten I had. She'd admitted to manipulating the mortgage, giggling like it was a prank. I started typing. A thread, a simple one. No accusations, just facts, dates, screenshots. Her voice, my name missing from contracts. Then I called a few people, trusted ones, media folks, friends in finance. If she comes for me, this hits the air. I laid down later, but didn't sleep, just listened. Every creak in the house felt amplified. I knew the layout of this place like the back of my hand, but suddenly it felt foreign, like her affection had been familiar, but false. That evening, Clara walked into the living room, her dress casual, a glass of red wine in hand. She smiled, that same unbothered smile she'd worn at the gala. "You found my little legal trick. Clever." She lifted the glass. "Here's to new beginnings." I stood up, meeting her eyes. "I hope that beginning includes full accountability." She laughed under her breath, reached for a second bottle, one I hadn't opened. I watched the wine flow into the glass. The drip, the color, the silence. I woke with a purpose humming beneath my ribs. Last night's legal move was no quiet rebellion. It had ruptured the surface. My phone lit up with news alerts. Merrick Thompson sues Clara Willis. Family dispute turns corporate scandal. I scrolled, saw headlines, whispers of sympathy. A text from Clara popped in. "What have you done?" I answered, "What you started." I leaned back and looked over the clippings. Some painted me the villain, some the victim. I didn't care which. I drafted my own statement. I was never invisible. I was silenced. My fingers hovered before sending it out to my contacts. I wasn't begging for attention. I was claiming mine. Within minutes, social media exploded. Articles accused me of launching a smear campaign. Anonymous insiders spread rumors. Comment sections lit aflame. Clara appeared live on a local station. She teared up, claimed she'd been betrayed, turned the narrative around so people felt sorry for her. She referenced me as unstable, unpredictable. She undermined me before I could finish my first word. In my office, I watched the broadcast, heated but calm. This was not a panic. It was fuel. They tried to bury me in public. I'd unearth every lie. I assembled my team, Blaze, Riven, Zeph. They confirmed the mortgages, paper trails, hidden meetings, shell corporations. We gathered photos, email chains, contracts. Zeph told me to file injunctions, freeze her access, expose every falsified document. I drafted an open letter. Side-by-side comparisons, her signatures, my absence. I rehearsed speaking it aloud, steady, unwavering, distant from anger. Then came the moment I'd carved out in my mind. A press conference in the courtyard of the resort. The sun low, shadows long. Camera crews, city reporters, curious onlookers. I walked to the podium, USB in hand. The montage played. Clara's confessions, Jethro's ties, the secret suite, her signatures. Gasps. The color left her face. I said, "You erased me. I'm rewriting this story." The silence stretched before reporters swarmed. Clara stood behind the velvet ropes, horror and fury flickering across her expression. She lunged for a mic, but I muted it live. The crowd's confusion became validation. After, I walked off that stage, past her side, past cameras. No need to look back. I could feel that the war had shifted. It wasn't just exposure, it was ownership. Tonight, Clara texted me again. "Watch your steps tonight." I paused. No fear, just awareness. Then, knock. Someone on the other side of the door chose this moment to challenge me. And I stood there, USB in hand, ready. I woke to stillness, not the nervous quiet of anticipation, but the clean kind, the kind that only follows a storm that's already passed. For the first time in months, there were no reporters outside, no pinging phones, no interviews to rehearse. My name had slipped from the headlines, and that felt like freedom. Under my door lay an envelope. I expected Clara's handwriting, but it wasn't hers. It was from her attorney. Inside, just one line. No further contact, agreed upon. No apology, no explanation, just legal silence. I sat by the window, looking out over the street below my rented apartment. The city felt quieter. I opened my journal and let the pen move. I wrote about everything I had lost, my home, my marriage, the business. But the ink ran steadier when I wrote about what I had reclaimed, my voice, my clarity, myself. The last thing I wrote before closing the journal. It was never about revenge. I just wanted to see the truth clearly without distortion. That afternoon, another envelope arrived, this one handwritten from Riven. Inside was a copy of the final audit report now in the hands of authorities. His note said simply, "I did what I should have done sooner." There was a flash drive too. On it, a voice recording, Clara admitting to manipulating documents, shifting liability onto me to protect herself. Riven stepped down from the board that week, publicly, and he named me as the one who had always kept integrity while the rest played games. Honestly, he'd said to me on the phone, you were the only one who showed up without a mask. I didn't say much back, just thanked him quietly. Maybe that's all redemption really sounds like. Weeks passed. I sold the lake house, the last thing left we had tied together. I didn't feel grief, just release. I bought a modest cottage in Vermont, tucked away just far enough from the noise. Trees outnumbered people there. Mornings smelled like pine and coffee, nights like peace. I opened a small consulting firm. Nothing grand, just enough. Locals knew me as Grace. No last name, no legacy, just me. I mentored a young woman starting her first bakery. She reminded me of someone I used to be, before the headlines, before the lies. Helping her felt more like healing than therapy ever did. One Thursday, a small postcard came in the mail, no envelope. Just Clara's handwriting, sharp and familiar. We broke everything, but maybe we both fixed something in ourselves. No return address, no signature. I held it for a long minute, then set it gently into the fire, not in anger, not even sadness, just release. As the paper curled and turned to ash, I whispered goodbye, not to her, but to the part of me that ever needed her to validate my worth. That night, a friend asked me if you could go back and change anything. I thought about it, I really did, and I told him no. I wouldn't be who I am without all of it. My mother used to say, Wesley, real freedom is when you stop needing an audience to walk away. Now I understood. The $200,000? It wasn't a loss. It was a tuition fee for the hardest lesson life ever taught me. I closed my journal for the last time that night. And just as I stood to make tea, my phone rang. A woman's voice on the other end. We're reaching out from the Women's Legacy Summit in New York. We'd like you to speak. I smiled. Long, full. Tell them I've got a story to tell.